What is up, you guys? Welcome back to the Alchemical Life podcast. This is your host, Abigail Crow speaking. I am an athlete of sorts, maybe, I suppose. I love endurance training and I love lifting and I love bringing endurance runners to lifting to help them run better, stronger, faster, forever. That's my intro. That's all I've got for you. I'm wearing these glasses today because I feel like we should bring light to a dark, dark subject, which is what to do when you can't. What to do when you can't. And if you saw me just adjust some weird stuff, it's me adjusting my lighting, okay? It's what to do when you can't. Again, if you see me look off, it's because I'm looking at my notes, because if I don't have my notes, I am nothing. Okay? I am nothing without my notes. But what do we do when we can? What does this mean? This means, what do I do when I cannot train well, when training isn't going well, when things are not happening the way they're supposed to be happening? What does this look like? It looks like a high stress period, craziness with work, some life event happens that just throws you for a loop. You're sick. You have an injury. There are things that get in the way. And there are the blatantly obvious ones where it's like, oh man, I've just torn my hamstring. Okay, I'm out. And then there are the not so obvious ones. And those are the ones where we have little aches and pains, little niggles. I hate training. I'm so mentally fatigued. I'm so stressed with this thing. And that's where I feel like the creepy, crawly, dark thoughts come in. And you're just like, don't want to show up for training, and I don't know why I don't want to show up for training, but I'm having the hardest time and I can't show up well for my training sessions, and what's going on, and I'm not sleeping, and whatever, and I'm down on myself and I don't know what's going on. And I think that's where it becomes really, really tough to navigate when to take a chill pill and what to do when I can't. What to do when I can't show up 100%. What to do when I can't train the way that I want to train. What do I do when I can't be the crazy athlete that I want to be? What do I do? And that's what we're going to talk about today. But before we get into it, if you are somebody that loves running and wants to run better, faster, stronger, forever, and you need a program to supplement that running, then take a quiz. You can get assigned a program. Quizzes are fun. Honestly, don't even buy a program. Just take a quiz and see what program would work best for you. I have 5 programs, actually, but 3 programs, a couple of different variations of 2 of those programs, just so that we can work with clientele that, maybe they have a little bit higher frequency in the week, or maybe they have more access to gym equipment versus others that don't. But anyways, take the quiz, figure out what program would be best for you, and maybe buy it. And if you don't want to buy it, get to the end for this episode. Maybe we'll be pals, and then maybe you'll want to buy it after that. Okay. If not, follow me on social media. All of my socials, my website, everything's down there, so you can check it out, figure out who I am, what I'm about. And if you don't care about any other social media other than YouTube, then like, comment, subscribe, do that thing with that stuff. And let's get on into it. So, what to do when I can't do? I think the very first step you should do is to pause. Okay. If you are literally getting up and going to your session, potentially, don't pause. I would say if you're like in the middle of a workout, unless you're having just a complete injury situation or total mental don't pause. Just let's get done with the session. The loopity loops might be worked out, honestly. The mental loopity loops might be worked out by the sheer aspect of just going and training and seeing how the session goes, just seeing where we land. We might think we're having a horrible time, but depending on where you land, you might end up being like right on cue and doing okay. I've had times where I'm like, I'm tired and I suck and I feel fat and lazy and all kinds of stuff. And then I have like the best session of my life, So first, it's like, if we're on the way to the session, let's just see if we can get it done. But otherwise, first step is to pause. I'm gonna tackle a few different categories as I go on, but we're gonna start broad and then go a little bit more narrow as we move into this. And pausing is hard to do for athletes in general because we're just always wanting to go. And it's especially hard for people who are taking part in athletic pursuits and they also have their family, their job, they're a mom, a daughter, they're a son, they're a dad. You have all of these roles. And so you're not just the athlete, you are also this other human. And so things just get busy and you have to keep moving. But if you can, take pause, think about what is really happening. What is really going on? Am I sick? Am I going through a really hard mental situation? Did I have something stressful really happen? Am I going through a hard, stressful block in my life? Am I hating running right now? Am I ready for this race that I'm prepping for? Just take a step back and evaluate the situation at hand. Because I think sometimes when you can just take a step back and evaluate the situation from a more third party perspective, an unbiased perspective, one of two things can happen. You can either be like, oh my God, it's blatantly obvious. Like, take a couple days. You are injured. Something is going on. You are sick. You need to rest. And then there's also, you can take a couple steps back, look at it from a third party perspective and say, oh, you're just having a day, dude. It's all right. You're just having a day. Let's just get through the day. And if we really need to not show up for training tomorrow, then we won't. But like, you're just having a day. Or you're just having a week. Okay. So figure out what it is that's going on and evaluate the situation. I find most times that it's not usually one thing. It's like a few different things. And I find this from both my clients' experience and also personal experience. It's usually not one big, right? Oh my God, I've torn my hamstring. I have to take time off. It's usually I'm getting sick. I had all kinds of crazy travel that just happened. I'm going to speak from personal experience. I was gone for 10 days. I'm coming back into work. I've got so many different things that are on my mind, to-do list a mile long, getting right back into my first week of 5K training. I'm getting into my first week of 5K training. So I'm nervous and my immune system is run down. I'm getting sick. Okay. These are several things, but I could zoom out and say, all right, these are the things that are happening. The stress stuff is the stress stuff. We'll evaluate that as the training block goes on. I got to get these sessions in. And then what ended up happening was the sickness started to obviously get worse and I really got sick. And so then it was evaluate, go back out. Okay, can I get these sessions done? Not to the intensity that I want. My body literally cannot push that hard, but I can get some miles in. And that counts for something. Clocking miles. So I got miles in. That's just one example, but I find that so many people, that is kind of how the situation goes. It's like you have all of these things and they just sort of pile on and then it's like they crush you. So let's take a step back, figure out, are we going to really let this crush us? Does this need to crush us? Are we making it heavier than it is? Then, on that note, you want to measure the severity of it. When we look back and we see all of these things that are compiling, or maybe a couple of things that are compiling, or maybe one thing that's piling on, how severe is it? Look at the overall timeline, and then you also want to look at of the thing that's causing the stress, the sickness, the injury, whatever. That's the thing that's causing you the blues. And then you want to look at the timeline of your training block. All right, and I'm going to break all three of those things down. So, how severe is it? Did we get seriously hurt? Did you have a serious life event happen? Like a traumatic life event happen? Do we have a serious a crazy work deadline? What is going on exactly? And then we want to look at, did you come down with like a severe sickness, something really crazy, like you've got pneumonia? Okay. If it's super severe, then oftentimes the best thing to do is just to break it down, put pause on the thing, and tackle the problem at hand, and then return to training when we're able to have some more clarity and just a little bit more energy to even observe the problem and really tackle it. If it's not super severe, I'd say let's look at the timeline of the thing that's causing the ailment, the blues, the downs, and then let's look at the timeline of your training block. If this thing is something that is chronic and persisting, you anticipate it to be chronic and persisting, then is it manageable? Can we handle it during this training block? If yes, let's navigate that. If no, let's reevaluate the training block. If it is an acute, short-lived thing, then one of two things can happen. You can either say, I can get this, it's an acute, short-lived thing, and thus I can get through it and it will be fine. Versus it is an acute, short-lived thing and I need to just rest right now and then go back into my training. Especially if your training block is long, aka 3 months plus in duration, you have time. You have time to mess things up. You have time to put things on pause. You have time to have down weeks. You have time to have uh-oh situations. So if your race is coming up in 2 weeks, then you're either one, tapering, and so it's fine already, or two, you're finishing out the last little bit of hard training and it might be good to just power through. And I know I'm throwing a lot of different situations at you, but that's because a lot of the time it is situational. You have to be able to really move back and observe. And I think that's why I talked about it as being the first step, but it's the largest step, which is go back and look at your training and look at the problem from a third party perspective or from a 50-foot view. You want to be able to back up and observe everything as it is in place. So the next thing you can do, and I'm going to break some situations down, right? So you're like, okay, I got to look at the timeline of the event. Is it acute? Is it chronic? I got to look at the timeline of my race. Is it short? Is it long? How severe is the problem that I'm facing? Is it not severe? Is it super severe? These are so many things to juggle and navigate. Correct. So the next thing is to get another perspective. Ask for help. Hey, there are so many coaches that I promise you, like, you don't have to pay us for every single little bit of our time. Like, we are happy to give guidance and opinions. So even if you're like, I don't have a running coach, I don't have a lifting coach, but this thing is happening to me, we will help, and if you don't want to talk to a coach, you don't know a coach, then go to a friend, because I promise you, like, most of the time, like, they know what to do. They practically, rationally, they can assist you. So ask for help. There are so many times when I've gone to clients who are also runners. I've gone to other coaches. I've gone to my significant other. I've gone to a parent. And I've just said, I am dealing with this thing. And this is what I'm inclined to want to do. Is this smart based off of the XYZ that I'm laying out in front of you? And they'll say yes or no. And they will give their thoughts. Now, exception. Be careful how many people you ask for help. I would get 1 to 2 opinions of people that you very much respect and trust, and that is it. Because the more opinions that get thrown at you, the more overwhelmed you will feel, and the worse you will end up feeling in terms of the decision that you make. There's already so many things going on. You already got the blues. You're already overwhelmed. You're already stressed out. You're already pissed off. Whatever. Let's not make it worse. So 1 to 2 people, get their opinion, take it into consideration. Do it or don't do it in terms of the advice they give you. How do we get specific with this? Abigail, I don't want to talk to anybody. I'm dealing with these things by myself. But I've listened to this episode, so I need you to solve my problems. All right, well, we're going to break down some situations. And hopefully I can help navigate your problems and your future problems for you. Okay? The first thing, let's look at mental health, right? Stress, life things. We're going to look at a severe and not severe, acute and chronic. My general rule, overarching for all mental health, stress, life things, is when it comes to the session, let's try one more session. Show up for one more session. And then the next day, let's start making a plan. If you still feel the same way, if you still feel the mental, life, stress, craziness, show up that day that you don't want to show up. And then the next day, let's make a plan. Now, let's say you go to the next day. I am still struggling. It is bad. This thing is happening. Okay. How severe is it? If it is very severe, I'm going to give an example. You've got a death in the family, a best friend. When you put into perspective showing up for your workout versus this life event that happened, in the grand scheme, what matters more? I'm not here to answer that question for you. That's just a question that you have to answer. Because some people would say my mental health depends on me going out and running to handle this thing. And that's your answer. But what matters more? Then it would be, what do we need to get done today? What needs to happen, right? Because if we got a lot of high stress, you've got a lot of mental stuff going on, what needs to get done today? Get that done. When we take that severe thing and we apply it to the timeline of this event, of coping with, recovering from, emotionally handling this severe situation. And again, it doesn't have to be like a death. It can be any kind of like mental situation, stressful thing. I got fired from my job. I got hit with a very, very depressive episode that's just been very intense. Let's look at the timeline of this event. Do we think this is going to last a long time? Is this going to be something that's going to take a while? Is this something that's not going to take a while? Is this going to be a brief, acute situation? I'm not here to answer that question for you. Let's also look at the timeline of your training. Do you have a race tomorrow? Do you have a race 4 months from now? If it's a very acute situation and your race is far away, then it might benefit you to take a little bit of time to handle what is going on in your life emotionally, to then get back into training. For some people, it's still showing up for training. Most people, I would say it's still showing up to move, but it's not necessarily showing up for training. It's, I need to do something and move my body, but I need to not have the pressure, the extra pressure of hitting these times, hitting this level of intensity, whatnot, that kind of thing. And that's where I'd say, go run, go do your thing, go lift, but make it a whatever week. I'm going to do whatever the hell I want. If it is an acute thing and you have a race coming up very soon, then that is where you need to decide. How important is this race? Does it need to get done? Would I feel better if I showed up for the race? Would I not? If this is a chronic thing and you also have a race a long time out, then dictate again, how important is this race? Do I really want to show up for this race? And would training for something during this time that's really tough for me be something that would be better for me in the long run or worse for me in the long run? And only you and people close to you will know that. So I'm not here to answer that question, but I'm here to ask it. The best thing during these times is control the controllables. And really the only thing that you can control is how you respond to things. We get thrown with a lot of inputs all the time. How are you going to output? And how are you going to do that in the wisest way possible? Sometimes it's rest, sometimes it's work. I don't know. I don't have the answer for you, but just those are the questions that I would ask. I can't take myself seriously in these classes, but here we are. Here we are talking about serious stuff. Cake time. The next thing I want to cover is sickness and injury, because that's kind of its own category. So again, general rule is measure the severity, and then I would say evaluate what is the least amount of things that I can do to maximize training, or what can I do to shift my training to still get the intent that I want out of the training. There's a few things here. We're going to start with measure the severity. So how severe is it? Is it really bad? Like you have to take time off. I'm very sick. I'm very injured. I have to have a period of rest. Then move your body in the way that you can in terms of like walk, stretch, do yoga, sauna, cold plunge, whatever, whatever your doctor allows you to do. But otherwise, like you gotta chill. Sorry. It sucks, but this is what has to happen. If it's severe in the sense of like, man, every time I run, it freaking hurts, but I'm okay. Or I'm pretty dang sick, but I'm okay. Then let's figure out what is the least amount of stuff I can do to maximize the training. For me, last week I was sick. I was not so sick that I was like absolutely bedridden, couldn't show up to work. I could not get the intensity out of the training that I wanted to get that week. So I looked at grand scheme. I'm training for a half marathon. I'm training for 5Ks. as well. But I'm building to a half marathon. And so I need to get better about being able to be very consistent with hitting a certain amount of miles per week. And this is where I'm not even married to my mileage. I need to just be married to time on feet. So like I need to be like 35 miles a week should really just be like a non-issue for me. And in order to do that, I have to continue to run. So it was, I can't hit the intensity I want, but I can get the miles in. So that's what I did. For some people, it's, I have to take, I need to take 3 days, 4 days off and really fully recover, and I'll be fine. And then get back to it and get back to the intensity of training that you need to. But if the least amount of stuff you can do, if you are at a place with your sickness or your injury where you're like, I can train, I don't need to take a few days off. And my race is, whether it's coming up soon or far out, it's like I can still train. Then what can we do to maximize what you need to get done for your training? If you have a race coming up soon, honestly, depending on how sick you are and how far out your race is, you'd be better off just resting. I'm just going to say that right now. Injury or sickness, you'd be better off just taking a chill pill. Just relax. If your race is super far out, then you can either take a chill pill. If you want to train through it, then I'd say, depending on your training block, this is where it becomes a little bit hard. What is the intent you're trying to get out of your sessions? What is your main focus for this block? Is it to build speed? Is it to build endurance? Is it to build resilience? Is it to generate more power? What is the intent that you're trying to do? What is the least amount of things that I can do that still allow me to get the intent that I want out of my training? And that's a question you have to answer for yourself. Now, let's say you're at a place where you're like, okay, in order to get the intent that I want out of the training, I can't actually run. Well, then what can we go to? How can we cross train? Can you bike and get the intent that you want out of your training? Can you ski erg and get the intent you want out of your training? Can you row and get the intent you want out of your training? Can you step mill, stair climber and get the intent you want out of your training? Can you aqua jog? If you need to generate more speed, if you need to generate more power, if you need to just generate base level endurance, but time on feet's just not going to be possible for you right now. You have to build up slower, but endurance needs to happen faster. Then other metrics, using cross training helps a lot. For runners, this is like the meanest thing that you could say. It's just like, don't run, do other things other than running. But it is what it is. I have had days where I've been on that assault bike for upwards of an hour. And it's just what's got to happen, because I need to be at a certain heart rate and I need to build endurance, and that's what I got to do. So it's not necessarily the fun suggestion. It's not necessarily the only answer, but it's probably the smartest option, which is you might have to shift the way that you train in order to get the intent out of your training in this period of time that you're in, whether it's sickness or injury. And you might have to, if you don't need to shift your training, right, then you need to ask yourself, what is the least amount of stuff that I can do to drive all of the intent that I want out of the training during this period of time where I'm dealing with sickness or injury? And then sometimes it's, I need to chill and I need to humble myself and I need to put my tail between my legs and realize I've got to take a few days off, which is also hard to do. But that is essentially what to do when you can't. And it sucks. It's not a fun place to be. Honestly, if I'm being completely honest with you guys and fully transparent, fully vulnerable, I have had a very rough month since I got done with mile training, since before I got done with mile training. So it has been longer than a month. It's probably been 6 weeks. I went into my mile time trial earlier than I wanted to and hurt. I got the time that I wanted, but I feel like I could have done better. And I learned a lot, which was great. But when breakfast at the track showed up, right, I was not able to run the mile. I had already done it early because of the injury I was dealing with. Even when I recovered from that injury, my body was very clearly just exhausted and I needed to take some time. And I learned this the hard way. Instead of taking just a week of absolutely doing nothing, it was several weeks of kind of doing something and trying to get back on the wagon and just really every time falling off. And then this week, when I felt really, really good going into my training, I was sick. So it was a period of several things. I had a lot of several life events and some stressful things happen. I was injured and I was then mentally down. And then when I finally, felt good, felt ready, felt excited, was mentally a little bit more up, I was sick. So it is not fun and it is very difficult going through a longer phase of just feeling bleh. But it is a part of pursuing things athletically, as it is a part of life. Just as life has ups and downs, things go wrong and things go right, so does your training. And to assume that things will not is foolish. And to assume that you are invincible is foolish. So instead of getting frustrated when things are not going the way that you planned, I think it's better to embrace the uncertainty of all of it and to roll with things with grace. And I say that as somebody who's learning the process currently. But I hope this episode was helpful for you. Leave in the comments. I would love to hear you guys' story of, some kind of thing that you might have been struggling with recently, how you overcame it, or any kind of struggle you're currently dealing with in your training block. It sucks to feel like you're alone in it. And so if I can share and help anybody feel less alone in it and help them guide some of their decisions with wisdom, then I have won. So anyways, buy a program, subscribe, like, comment. Bye.